I step up to the first room, the Great Hall. It has 3 separate doors and contains a plethora of strange paintings. I go left. We could draft a bedroom, but the hallway has more doors. It also contains a note. Doors in the west wing are more likely to be locked. Noted. Then we draft a bedroom, which allows us to get more steps to explore the manor. It contains more strange paintings and a large pond for some reason, as well as a locked chest. We move into the parlor, containing a riddle that when solved gives us 2 gems. We enter the closet for 2 items, but it puts us at a dead end, so we return to the Great Hall and go north. We walk into the den and gain a gem. Then we open security, which provides us with a slow and methodical cutscene of us entering the room. There's a computer with a password we don't know, and a note stating that all red notes are lies. We move through the spare room and drawing room with a massive amount of paintings and make our way to the nook. There's a rook in the nook. We have acquired a key, which would open the chest in the bedroom. Halfway out of steps, we open the dark room on the right-hand side. It is in fact very dark. Our choices are obscure, and so we take a random guess, and as fate would have it, we get the furnace. That is not good. We go up instead, pump some iron, and lose half of our remaining footsteps. We draft the lavatory here since there are no better options before we make the observatory and gain the benefit of stars. But movement is running low and items even lower. The furnace burns us again and we make the chapel, which loses us our gold, but has some very fascinating numbered murals. The boudoir comes after and contains a special safe on Christmas with a passcode we also do not know. The furnace hits us again and we enter the archives, but we are given a substantial amount of events and lore, a published book, history, a kidnapping. The pantry is the last room made as we gain small bits of gold and a few steps before reaching a locked door, ending our run. This is one of the best examples of a day in blueprints, an immediate dose of intrigue, general curiosity, and excitement, then burned by a poor run of RNG and unanswered questions. Blueprints is a master of repeating these emotions again and again. Highs of fascination and bewilderment, juxtaposed by frustration and befuddlement. Despite giving me some of the best experiences in 2025, it is a game that I cannot wholly recommend to all because there is no game like Blueprints, for better and for worse. Today, I plan to share both the triumphs and tribulations of this title, and I hope you will stay and draft with me after this commercial break. This video is sponsored by Factor. Factor is the best meal service out there. It has a fantastic plethora of options, not only with great types of things like high protein, low calorie, chef's choice, and so on, but the prices do not break the bank and they arrive immediately ready to be prepared. All you do is break them out of the box, throw them in the microwave for a couple of minutes, and bada bing, bada boom, you have a fantastic tasting meal. I use Factor quite often, not just the stuff that they send me, my own stuff specifically. It is a very good service, not only for their speed, their flavor, and also for their ease of use. And especially for someone like myself who has a job that consists of a lot less free time than I would like, it means the world to me. So head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code BrickyFB50 to get 50% off plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code BrickyFB50 at factor75.com to get 50% off plus free breakfast for 1 year. Thank you so much, Factor, for sponsoring this video. Tonda Ross is the visionary behind Blueprints. He is also a nerd. With a background in cinematography and a massive passion for puzzles, Mr. Ross came up with the idea of Blueprints initially as a board game. Drafting inspirations from Dominion and Labyrinth, the game was initially supposed to be a deck builder focused around drawing specific rooms to accomplish a goal. However, 8 years ago, Tonda found the Unity engine and realized making the game he truly wanted was far more feasible in video form. Over the 8-year development cycle, Tonda Ross worked mostly as a solo dev off the back of funding made entirely from his Magic the Gathering website, Mythic Spoiler. Boros for Life. The game was eventually finished with the help of a few more people for art assets, music, and quote, playtesting. Then Blueprints was finalized and published by Raw Fury Games and released in 2025. The game is centered around the young Simon Jones, our MC, who has been left the enormous Mount Holly estate from his grand uncle Herbert Sinclair. This is to be entirely ours if we can solve a special puzzle put together by our great uncle. Every single day, the rooms inside are reset, and we are forbidden to spend a night in the manor. Should we make our way to the secret 46th room on a 45-room grid, we will be granted the prestigious Mount Holly estate in our name. The game has you moving from room to room with a set amount of steps that go down by 1 every time you enter a new room. When you select an unlocked door, you are given 3 choices on which room you may draft, and these choices cannot be repeated and are final. You must choose a room when selected. As you make your way north, you will discover certain rooms requiring currency, doors to be locked, positive effects, negative effects, and dead ends aplenty. In a sense, Blueprints could be considered a roguelite. It's a game relying on randomized experiences to complete one major goal, with occasional persisting effects as the game goes on. Despite this comparison, it was not intentional.
It's very easy to see now when roguelikes are so popular and so popularized, that it's easy to see the shared elements. But obviously 8 years ago, that was not the case. You know, we did not have any of the deck builders. And so I think like a lot of these elements that people associate with roguelikes are actually from, these games.
The reason Blueprints is considered a roguelite is due to its persisting elements. When certain rooms are drafted and puzzles solved, permanent upgrades will be given to the player, allowing you to reduce RNG and have you perform better in each run. If, however, you were to assume that Blueprints is a gameplay-oriented roguelite, then you would be mistaken. The main plus 25 steps of this game are more focused on exploration and puzzle solving. You will find yourself looking for Pepe Sylvia far faster than you would expect, and Blueprints explicitly states that keeping notes is paramount for the completion of the game. The most clear inspiration for this, and important for the understanding of Tonda Rosa's design theory, is the 1985 puzzle book Maze.
Probably the biggest thing that I can think of that directly informed this game, and of course, I don't think your question it necessarily pertains to stuff that has to inform this game, but I think that there is a illustrated book called Maze, which I had found probably when I was like 10 or 11. And I remember it was in a Target on the end cap. It starts you off in a room, and there's 4 doors, and you get to choose which door to walk through. And as the doors each have a number above them, and that's the page number you turn to. And so let's say you choose this cool looking door with a 4 above it. And then on that, you turn to page 4 and you're in a new room. And so you're kind of exploring a house. And in fact, when the book begins, it says, "This is not a book. This is a building in the form of a book."
Maze is, as stated, an illustrated puzzle book. The goal of the book was to reach room 45 through a series of 45 puzzles in the shortest amount of steps. Each page had a visual puzzle as well as a narrative descriptor to help the reader plot a course to room 45. The special incentive of Maze was that if a reader could explain how to get to room 45 and back to room 1 all in under 16 steps, they would win $10,000. This game shares many clear similarities to Blueprints on a fundamental level, and the creator of Maze, Christopher Manson, is credited to the title, and even designed one of the game's puzzles. Now, puzzles make up a bulk of the gameplay you will be doing. Blueprints is a combination of investigative puzzle solving mixed with roguelite elements that require resource management. This is also one of its biggest flaws, as the two components are often at odds with one another, but that is something to be discussed in the post-game. This game is at its best when it is in that discovery to accomplishment pipeline. Each room in the first few hours of the game is dripping with information, so much so that you genuinely don't know if the notes you are taking are actually important for a future puzzle or just window dressing for the game's fantastic aesthetic. That aesthetic specifically being one of the game's best strengths. One of the best aspects of playing this game is just absorbing its top-level atmosphere. Tonda's background in cinematography is firing on all cylinders, as each room contains a level of slow and methodical pacing and curiosity, down to which songs are played and when a cutscene deserves to be shown. This is something that I personally appreciate a lot. There is a lack of video games that really force you to stew on things and take their time in such a honed manner. While blueprints may have minimal cutscenes, each feel important, and they are, as the kids like to say, aura maxing huzz.
I see a shadow in the doorway. Silent footsteps in the hallways. An unlatched gate you did not open. A missing item you did not take.
This extends also to the music of the game, which combines smooth jazz with a sobering ambience specific to where you are in the game. The music can range from light background relaxation to uneasy confusion and extreme triumph, entirely depending on where you are. Being able to seamlessly swap between all of these is something that goes wholly unappreciated. Often, you'll just be moving from room to room in a new run, gathering materials and double-checking your notes as if it's a brand new day on the case. Or you'll be moving deeper into the manor, encountering more difficulties and struggles, more locked rooms, key cards, doorways that lead nowhere. You are gaining on room 46, and yet it only ends up being more difficult. And sometimes, during a major moment of excitement, Blueprints truly shines with its music choice. Sometimes inquisitive turns into triumphant, as the hours you have spent on a puzzle finally come to fruition, and your reward is only a few minutes and a couple steps away. These are the moments when Blueprints is at its best as a video game. The discovery, the excitement, and the reward. Much like Outer Wilds, the ensuing feeling of accomplishment in solving a puzzle is the main reason you play the game. You have an entire board filled with a plethora of leads and connecting bits, notes you've taken over the course of your playthrough. When you finally reach a room, look at your notes, and see the connecting thread that allows you to solve the puzzle, that feeling is indescribable. It is a feeling of true investigation, of theories and solutions. It is a feeling that no game can provide with basic unlocks and progression. For the first 15 to 20 hours of the game, this is the experience of Blueprints. There is a monumental feeling of accomplishment with each puzzle solved and each permanent upgrade unlocked. No doubt, RNG, in its typical roguelite fashion, will annoy you and it will end a few runs, but that RNG is mitigated via unlocks, and since there is so much to see and take note of, sometimes a new run is a blessing rather than a curse. The trials of Room 46 are an exercise in fantastic pacing, discovery, and curiosity. The solutions to the puzzles are drip-fed to you in just the right way to never feel overbearing nor overly complex. What it ends up creating is some of the most exciting gameplay I have done all year. My final run to Room 46 is one for the ages, the epitome of puzzle-solving, hilarious RNG, and a true crescendo of everything this game has to offer. Yes, the alien tunnel, the alien fucking tunnel! What in the ever-loving hell is this? 8 doors? The moon? Holy shit. Patio, gems are spread everywhere. 1 gem. Courtyard, more gems. Wait, where's the lever? Maybe, yeah, I could try to get lucky. I don't know. Maybe some options. No way! We're low on steps though, man. Kitchen! +5 for every green room in your house. That's +20. Come on, baby. Key card? Security. I'd like to get rid of Parlor, honestly. So I'm gonna get rid of it. But we don't need, we have 3 gems. 3 gems is enough. That's all we've got. We have 1 chance. No, we don't. We have the key card on the other side. We can try one more. We can try one more room. We can try one more room. We could maybe get dice for sale. I don't think they sell dice, but we'll find out if they do. Sledgehammer, sleeping mask, running shoes. Nothing. Okay. Here we go. Now, this is not a game that is all RNG, and anyone who says it is has not gotten past the first few hours of the game. There are a surprisingly large amount of ways that you as the player can mitigate RNG. The main sources of it and their difficulties come from drafting the wrong room that you need, or a room that doesn't work in the direction you are headed. This is exacerbated by certain rooms costing gems to draft, the randomness of items that you acquire during your run, and your step count. As mentioned prior, these difficulties are very much addressed throughout the use of permanent upgrades and general game knowledge. The game allows you to start each run with additional steps, gems, and coins to help ease that early game difficulty. It also has upgrade discs in the manor to create improvements on various rooms that will then allow a smoother traversal through Mount Holly. One of the most important things to note is that once a room is drafted, it cannot show up again. So using corner spaces or doors that lead to nowhere and drafting poor rooms intentionally will allow you to free up future spaces for better rooms where needed. There are many ways to mitigate RNG, but these do only mitigate it. At a point, you will have a Pepe Sylvia board so full of questions and so full of various options that you will dial in on a specific build in order to get it done. I, for example, was doing my best to create a boiler room into a laboratory. This combination eluded me day after day after day because despite all the permanent upgrades, the rooms I was drafting simply did not line up, which led to intense feelings of frustration.
Minor in charge.
Before Room 46, one of the benefits to having so many different puzzles in your head is that if you do get blocked by a poor layout, you still have so many notes to go through. In fact, tunnel visioning through one specific puzzle is generally a bad way to play Blueprints. It'll just lead to more frustration. But as the game continues and you solve more and more puzzles, you will naturally be left with fewer and fewer things to look for, leading you to aim for specific drafting combinations, which naturally will subject you to major RNG issues. This feeling could be mitigated if the rewards for these puzzles were more rewarding, but therein lies the fly in the lotion. The existence of a roguelite system with currencies and items means the reward for completion assumes the strengthening of one of those currencies. This is reinforced heavily pre-46, where all permanent upgrades and upgrade discs gave you some form of major step, gem, or coin-based assistance, and when it didn't, it was still something that helped you with your traversal somehow. Post 46, these upgrades move to a screeching halt where they're actually the most needed. You learn to draft more rooms as you advance, and the puzzles become more complex. This, of course, adds far more to the drafting pool, and with more choices means more possible difficulties in drafting and just unfortunately drafting the wrong stuff. The puzzles at this point become quite challenging and multifaceted. Large amounts of layered clues after layered clues, where many runs are needed to complete portions of these challenges. This feeling, this difficulty, culminated for me at one specific moment: the unlocking of the Black Bridge Grotto. The Black Bridge Grotto is one of the most challenging puzzles in Blueprints. It involves a large vault door and terminal that requires 3 microchips to open. In order to access the Black Bridge Grotto, you must first complete the laboratory puzzle. This is done by drafting the boiler room, then connecting the laboratory to the boiler that eluded me for so long. You must then solve the periodic table of elements puzzle to complete the laboratory, thus giving you access to the grotto. Microchip A, B, and C are needed to open this vault, with C already being installed into the area. Therefore, you need to find A and B. Through a laborious series of tasks involving books and security surveillance videos accessible after completing the security puzzle, as well as a specific item requirement, you can then find Microchip B. Microchip A is roughly as difficult as Microchip B and has the same item requirement. But once you have done these tasks, looked through the books, put the puzzle together, drafted the right rooms, grabbed the right items, and opened up the grotto via the boiler room and laboratory puzzle, your reward awaits you. The music swells and a momentous feeling of accomplishment is at hand, culminating in one of the best feeling moments of Blueprints, rivaling even getting to room 46. And your reward is the ability to draft another room for another puzzle. All this work, all this effort, this incredible cutscene and feeling of accomplishment to create another room. Now, people who have gotten this far in Blueprints know that I'm doing a little bit of lying by omission. The throne room is not just another room, it's the other room. It's the final room to complete the final part of the game. It's the true and genuine endgame. This also is an extremely important narrative section for the game. For the overarching story of Blueprints, opening the Black Bridge Grotto is very important, and those that are heavily involved in the narrative may find my distaste for the reward to not be a complaint they personally have. But I do, because this is not just a narrative game. I originally found out about Blueprints thanks to a sponsorship opportunity. I had a few hours of streaming the game and ended up really liking it and thinking it was something special. So I continued it, and now we are here. But one of the things said in the game's pitch is what really stood out to me. If you liked Outer Wilds, you'll like this. It's a lot like it. Now, Outer Wilds, the space exploration puzzle game and best game ever made, developed by Mobius Games, May Their Crops Yield a Large Bounty, is indeed very similar to Blueprints. They both contain puzzles and story-rich elements based on the uncovering of new information in a Groundhog Day-like cycle. Indeed, the marketing email was right. It is a bit like Outer Wilds, and I like the game. But one key difference between the two is that Outer Wilds does not have resources in its mechanics. Every discovery you make and every puzzle you solve is entirely knowledge-based. The game can be beaten on its first day, and while so can Blueprints, it can be beaten in its entirety, not just Room 46, with no random chance ruining your run. When you complete a puzzle in Outer Wilds, the knowledge you gain is the reward. In Blueprints, because there are mechanics and currencies, you expect to get one of those from completing a puzzle. And you often do, up until 46. That's the fundamental difference between these two games, and why providing a realization in Outer Wilds works so well on its own, while in late game Blueprints, it lacks the same punch. One game does not have resources, therefore the juice gained from finishing the puzzle is all you need. When the other one does, it becomes a frustration. Tonda Ross added a puzzle in the gallery room that was made by Christopher Manson, the creator of Maze, as both an appreciation piece to Christopher and a fun little shout out in addition to the one in the credits. Now, I mean no disrespect when I say this, but I hate this puzzle. It's very challenging and requires a line of thinking that isn't quite as present with the rest of the game. Not to mention, anyone who knows English as a second language will most likely struggle with this very heavily. It's a different kind of visual challenge, yet completing this puzzle yields you a key. This key can only be utilized on the 8th tile of the manor. So you need to draft the gallery, complete the puzzle, get the key, make it to the 8th level of the estate, open the door with the key, and then you have another puzzle to complete regarding the 7 deadly sins. Completing this puzzle will yield you a trophy, and 4 extra gold coins to your starting coins each day. Even when the game rewards you with a late game item bonus, the juice is not worth the squeeze. I know my thoughts on this game may feel like quite the whiplash of events, going from such strong praise to mixed feelings of displeasure, but that's generally how I think Blueprints operates. Truthfully, I believe the front loading of upgrades and benefits is the late game's downfall, and if they had continued to provide you additional assistance, it would have been substantially better realized. Permanently gaining 2 reroll dice, for example, or allowing you to draft 4 rooms instead of 3 each time, would have smoothed out the gameplay and allowed the puzzle solving to take over the mechanical frustrations. However, Blueprints as a game is still well worth its asking price. The journey to 46 is one of the best journeys I've had in all of 2025, and if you haven't played it yet and you're still watching this video, so long as you are a puzzle person, I would do so. Once the credits roll, however, it's up to you on whether or not you want to continue that journey. I did not. I saw the grotto cutscene, and my disappointment at the throne room made me give up on the final stretch. Not to mention that the throne room puzzle itself is even more challenging than the grotto. Now, if you are a puzzle nut and you love this kind of stuff, go for it. But I am happy to put it down, and I still consider it a very good experience, marred by issues of pacing, mechanics, and complexity in the late game. I think Tonda Ross put together something really special. More importantly, he put together his game. I will never discredit that. One thing that I have heard at times is that those that look on Maze as a book and reference it in their material do so in a very pretentious attitude, where talking about Maze is kind of saying you were inspired by Mozart and the classics. I do not consider Tonda Ross to be one of these people. There is a clear love for the source material, a clear love for the author, and the fact that Blueprints falls into the same trap that Maze does makes it all the more obvious. To end this video, I only have to say one thing. please make another video game, Tonda. I would love to see what you come up with next. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for sticking with me during this long delay. There will be more videos coming soon, and this final quarter of the year is looking like it's going to be rather packed. Have a lovely rest of your day, and thank you for watching.